Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I'm here with our longevity concierge, Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hi, Jeanne. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And we're working through the happiness and joy segments. And we've talked about so many great, well, you have so many great hints for people that are simple and easy to achieve. And there's one more that we might not even consider would be necessary to think about. What's this one? This is important.
So this is important. When it comes to joy, menopausal women struggle to find joy. Now, when I say menopausal women, I am talking about women probably 40, maybe closer to 45 to about 65. These are women that are experiencing symptoms. And a lot of them don't even know they're having symptoms. We think hot flashes and irregular cycles are kind of like the first signs of menopause, but they're not. The earliest signs actually have nothing to do with that, but they have everything to do with anxiety, loss of joy. Why? Mood swings, irritability, the night sweats and things that happen. Yeah, that really does happen. But the truth is really, your brain is changing as well. So
those physical things are easy to recognize.
Right.
We're talking about what you're talking about is the, well, almost non-physical. It's mental, right? But it's non-physical. So we're not sweating. We're not doing all of these things that we go, oh, that's what it is. Oh, that super sucks.
Right.
It's our habits are changing, and what we consider normal is different than what it was 10 years prior.
Right. And the anxiety and the mood swings, that actually is a perimenopausal. Those are really perimenopausal symptoms. So a lot of times, especially nowadays, women are having children a little bit later, right? Not so much in the Midwest where I live, but on all of my friends on the coasts, they had children later. One of my closest friends, she was 38 when she had her last child. And when we consider that progesterone starts dipping at 35, she was already perimenopausal, right? So these are symptoms that women are having from the time they're 40, and it may never really get better because they're not understanding that it is a effect of estrogen starting to decline, right? Estrogen regulates our moods, it regulates our emotions and our brain function. When we talk about brain function, more and more we're talking about cognitive function in the way of Alzheimer's and dementia. But our brain is functioning all the time now. And your brain is different when the serotonin, the dopamine, and the cortisol levels all start kind of getting wonky. Right? Yeah. Yes, we know as we get older, estrogen and progesterone are dropping, but the hormones, the other hormones that come into play here that really affect our happiness and joy are serotonin. There's that the happiness hormone. Dopamine, which is a motivational booster. This is one of those that kind of drives us to do the things that we loved. And we've talked about that in another segment where, someone doesn't even know what they like to do anymore.
Yeah.
That's not just something that, it's actually a physical thing that's happening to them because they may know, but they just don't have the drive that they used to have. The other one, of course, is cortisol. Estrogen kind of keeps cortisol in check. So if that's dropping, your cortisol levels are kind of bouncing around, but they're getting higher and higher. And again, as we go through menopausal years, that's when the sweats come in, and the erratic sleep. And if we're not sleeping, our cortisol levels are going up even more. If your stress hormone is going crazy, is going through the roof, it's really hard to find a place where happiness and joy lives.
That makes sense. And this is an important topic to touch on for people to hear, because there's more conversations about menopause than there ever has been. However, when you're connecting the happiness, joy piece to it, doesn't usually come into conversation.
No, and it's absolutely connected. And this is one of the challenges that most of us have when we go to a doctor. Even our OBGYNs, they're not trained in menopause. You know,
They're not trained
they
in
hear
happiness.
they're definitely not trained in happiness. Let's be real. You know, a doctor's job is to fix you when you're broken,
Right.
right? And if there's something like your mood, and you know, make possibly some anxiety, they want to fix that, right? And how do they fix that? They fix it by giving you an antidepressant. And if you've ever read the package insert of an antidepressant, years ago I worked for Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals, and I sold Prozac to physicians. I guess I didn't really sell it. I offered it. That was my job. Right? Prozac was one of the products that was in my repertoire. And for those people who have true diagnosed depression and anxiety, these are great medications. If the challenge with your mood is because your estrogen and progesterone levels are declining, the antidepressant is not going to help you. It's actually going to make it, or can make it, worse.
That's going to mask it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any of that unexplained and anxiety, I've never experienced the anxiety piece. Like, that's not something. My sister, on the other hand, every now and then she'll say, you know, like she kind of felt like she was having a panic attack. And I was like, why? You know, this was before I understood what was really happening. And I'm like, she talks in front of people all the time. Why this day was she having a bit of a panic attack? Ah, well, you know, she was 48 years old. You know, hormones can do a little funky thing. So, you know, it's really important to, and this again is where I'm going to come up with journaling. We love journaling, don't we, Jeanne?
Well, it's a necessary evil for some of us. And for some of us, it's
Yes.
a necessary love. I challenge with it, but I'm trying to embrace it more.
This is where,
Maybe that's why I keep talking about it, because I'm trying to convince myself that I should be doing it more, because I know it's good and I know it has a purpose.
but you just said something. I know I should do it. If it's something you should do, it's not something you enjoy. Maybe there's a
Right.
better way to do it.
Ah, there we go. We can find that. And if anybody's listening has a suggestion, send it this way.
Yes. Um, anyway, back to the point of that I want to make. If you're noticing this, like all of a sudden, you know, you're starting to notice, you know, your mood swings are a little funky. You're irritable more often than not. You have your loss of motivation. You know, your joy is just gone, and you feel disconnected to the people you love and the things that you enjoy doing. This is a conversation to have with a professional. It's a
Yeah.
conversation to have with somebody like me as a coach, because I understand where you could be, what could be going on, and I could then direct you in a way that of just a regular doctor, just kind of going to your PC. They're not going to really know how to help you. I can help you write the answers, or write the answers, ask the questions to your doctors that are going to help you in the best way.
And what's nice
So,
is there's not the shame of asking for help now that there used to be 10 years ago.
absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, menopause is stressful, aging is stressful. You know, we for men and for women, you know, every couple of years there's something else going on, right? But I do believe that there is a way for us to better understand what's going on, take control of it, reclaim our energy, reclaim our sense of self, most importantly, our sense of joy.
Great. Denise, thank you as always. And
Oh, you're
Denise will bring you happiness and joy. If anybody needs a little shot of that, get in touch with Denise because she has great tips. And thank you so much for these segments.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, Jeanne.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows each show and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jeanne Gallagher, and thank you so much for being here. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform and you like to see our happy faces, swing on over to YouTube and like and subscribe. Toss a comment in there. That's always very, very welcome. And let us know what you should think. And we're hoping you love the format. And if you'd like to be a guest, reach out to me as well, and we can talk about that too. But first of all, I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Lee Smith. Hi, Lee. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Jeanne. Thank you so much for having me here. Excited to be here to share.
Great. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And before we start, give us a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive in.
Fantastic. Well, I am a mindset and self-talk strategist. So I like to talk about all things inner critic and mindset. And so I am the creator the founder of Upcycle Coaching, and I run a online community for high achieving women called the G3 Mastermind.
And self-talk. We don't have enough time to cover what self-talk is and what it does in depth, because I think we all have these issues of I'm not good enough, or this didn't go well, or all of these things. But it's so important, and I love that you're providing tools to either identify and help manage that piece. But how does let's talk, can we get into that a little bit and then work our way through?
Absolutely. And I love it's the real hard conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, no kidding. So the conversation you have yourself about the conversation you have with yourself isn't always positive, and that just makes it even worse.
Yeah. I love all the things about self-talk. One, because it started for me when I was super young. I was ripe young age of 7 years old, and I, as the oldest of three children, and because of the great age difference, I did a lot of entertaining myself before my brothers became sociable. And I would play this game with myself where I would hold up a little mirror and I would stare and I would stare. And I started noticing that the image looking back at me kind of morphed. And initially it morphed into my dad. And so I was looking, even though it was me, I was seeing my dad. And then I heard my dad's voice. And he was saying the things that he typically says to me: Lee, you're amazing, you're so smart, you're so brilliant, you can do anything. And that felt pretty good, and that was kind of fun. And I thought, well, if I did that with my dad, could I do that with my mom? So I closed my eyes and I shook off the image, and then I looked at it again and again until all I could see was my mom. And I made that happen, and sure enough, I heard my mom's voice. And I love my mom dearly, but she was definitely a tiger Asian mom growing up.
Mm.
So it was a lot of, why can't you do that right? When are you going to be good enough? You missed a spot. Why can't you be like so and so? And not necessarily the favored voice of the two, but again, love my mom, wonderful, wonderful person. And then I thought, oh, okay, didn't like that so much. And then I closed my eyes and I shook it off. And then I looked at me hard and fast again. And I thought, well, what is my voice?
Mm.
And so I sat in silence staring at myself. And then I started hearing my voice. And it was saying things like, I am lovable and capable, and I'm a good friend, and I like Saturday morning cartoons and things like that. So I started hearing my own voice, and I thought, do I like the sound of it? And I decided that I did. And so growing up, I did dial in, what do I want to say to myself? And it was a lot of mimicking my dad, my teachers who poured the positivity into me. So I was very much positive thinking than the negative thinking. And truthfully, I would still hear my mom, you're not good enough. I did have to overcome those issues for myself. I'm just as human as anybody else, but I really dial that in. And then going into my college studies and my independent studies, it has been all
Mhm.
about personal growth development and those conversations that we have with ourselves.
That's amazing. And it's amazing that at that age you could recognize these things. And maybe part of it is the contrast of the messages between your parents.
Yeah.
But we are our environment. And that, we are a reflection of the people that we hang out with
Yes.
also.
So true.
So the subliminal messages that we might be hearing or quote hearing from our environment also play a part. And so you have that, whether it's positive or negative, and you have that
Right.
coming in, and then you have the inner messages coming out, and they're meeting, and either they're clashing or one is overtaking the other, and it creates a lot of noise.
It does. It really, really does. And research has shown that we have anywhere from 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day,
Holy cow.
every day. And 85% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that we had yesterday, the day before that,
Mm,
the day before that. So these thoughts are running on a loop. And if we don't catch what those thoughts are, we may not be aware that 70 to 80% of those 85% repetitive thoughts are typically on a negative loop. It
mhm,
we it as part of our human condition that we just naturally accept the negative, and we don't necessarily hold on to the positive. That takes diligent practice, but when
mm,
you do, it's very, very powerful. And so there is an importance to the awareness, being aware, where are those voices coming from, and which narratives do we choose to believe? And that it becomes part of our underlying identity. And if you're ever wondering what some of that is, take a look around you and what's happening in your life. Are things showing up the way that you want them to? Or do you feel like things are working in your favor? Or, oh, I'm just one of those unlucky persons. This always happens to me. Take a look at that, because it really
mhm,
makes a difference. So when you can catch yourself and either reframe, this is what I like to do with my clients that I serve, reframe that negative into empowerment and start to see the different results in your life, or at the very least, become aware, catch it,
mhm.
reframe it, and then see what happens from there.
And I would think too that so if we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts going through our brain on a regular basis, the what influences those thoughts? Some of those are our feelings and maybe some past conditioning or maybe the environment around us. But the other wrench that gets thrown into this that's more now than it was 10 years ago is social media. And
Absolutely.
and if you're just doom scrolling, thinking that you're just doom scrolling, but there's comparisons that happen to that in during that. I don't even want to call it an activity because it really isn't. It's this nothingness that happens as you're. I have a love-hate relationship with my phone, and I struggle with it all the time. So I'm not saying, oh, I never look at the thing.
Sure.
I struggle with this stupid thing all the time. But as your brain is sort of shut down and you're looking, there's these comparisons or these things that interplays with all of this other noise, use the word again, and
Yep.
it's almost like it's just hammering us down without the
Definitely.
right tools.
Right. I so agree with that, Jean, that so much of those 60, 80,000 thoughts, it's what are we consuming and what are
Mhm.
we exposing ourselves to? And it begins with even setting the tone the moment your eyes open. What are the
Mhm.
initial thoughts that are coming through? Is it like, oh, it's Monday. Gosh, do I really have to do this again? Or it's Monday. It's a new week and I get to do this and I can't wait to show up and serve doing the things. And so that really sets the tone for the day. And then your environment, we just mentioned that, what are the environments that you're stepping into? Some things you can't control, like, how are you setting things up in your bedroom, your bathroom, your home overall? And then what things can you control if you're showing up at a work environment? If you're in a cubicle situation, what types of things are you putting around you there? And what's the music or podcast that you're listening to in the car during your commute? Are there things that you're reading the moment that you are picking up your phone? Are you doing the doom scrolling and letting whatever, you're not filtering it?
Mhm.
Or are you being intentional and paying attention to what you're looking at? We can't control every single minutia, but we can control a lot of things. And that's where I like to say, where is your attention and your intention going? And
Mm.
and being responsible with that will make a huge difference in your life,
Okay, so that whole list, honestly, is overwhelming, right?
isn't
So
it?
yeah, it is super overwhelming. And so when things are overwhelming, um, I'm asking for a friend. When things are overwhelming, it causes a shutdown.
It can. It
It
can.
can. And so as you're talking with people or um let me just try to figure out the right way to say this. What would be if I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm handling this well, or what would be some indications that I think that these tools that Lee's have, I think I need to talk to her about this, or what would be some indications there might be, or you might need help in these areas?
Sure. No, that's a really great question, Jean. And let me try to set this up with a simple framework that
Hmm.
I teach everywhere I go. And this is called my Reactor Creator Framework. And the reactor is just like what we're talking about, right? That's just going through the day to day, not really being fully present and mindful as to how am I waking up in the morning? Or what am I listening to? Or what am I looking at? Am I just grabbing my phone and looking whatever? And as we're going through the day-to-day things, whether it's our job, it's our relationships, it's our health, all of those things, are we reacting to any given moment? And
Mm.
when we do, we may find that we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, whether it's expectations we're putting on ourselves or we're feeling expectations from the environment, whether it's the physical presence or people, what have you. And so I see the reactor like the letter C as
Hmm.
feeling stuck and overwhelmed in the middle of all the things.
Mm.
And what I invite you to do, and I'll show you how to use this as a tool in just a moment, but what I invite you to do, whether it's a single breath, a couple of minutes, a couple of hours, a half day, full day, maybe it's a little getaway, take yourself out from the middle of all the things
Mm.
and see yourself, like the letter C, pun intended
Hmm.
here, see yourself for who you are. Who are you being in this moment or in this situation?
Hmm.
And know the truth is that you are truly amazing and brilliant. You are such a miracle of a human being to be existing in the first place. And there's so
Hmm.
much that you have. And I like to call it my 3 Gs. This is why I call it my G3 mastermind, because I believe that you have genius, gifts, and greatness. And that can show up in loving yourself. That can show up in your relationships around you that matter most. That can show up in the work and the way that you express yourself in the world. And when you understand that amazingness and that brilliance, those 3 Gs, and you see yourself first,
Mhm.
instead of all the other things in life, when you do that, that's where the magic and the transformation happens. And then everything aligns and you can see what becomes important, what matters most. You can see the boundaries you need to set, where you're paying attention to what am I consuming, or where are areas of my life that I need to say no to so I can open up to more yeses and create the day, the week, the year, the life, the business, the relationships that I truly desire. So you're transforming from the reactor into the creator. Now,
Well, that's a
you
great visual, by the way, because
thank you.
it's very clear what you're talking about, and making that shift and difference, because you do have to remove yourself from everything that's going on to be able to make any of those changes.
Absolutely. And this principle has been around since the beginning of time. And we hear it from our amazing thought leaders like Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins, some of my favorites, Brenda Bouchard, Jim Rohn. And they talk about how we have a superpower of choice, that in any given instant or circumstance, whether it's internally, externally, or maybe a little of both, we can't control everything around us. And so we may
Mhm.
find ourselves reacting to the situation, or if we take just that half a beat, we can choose the response. And that's where I said we can use this as a tool. If at any given moment, as you're staying mindful and present to the moments in your life and something happens and maybe it's disrupting you, interrupting you, or it may be something that just catches you off guard, can you stay aware enough to ask yourself, maybe as you're taking a breath, asking yourself, am I reacting or am I creating the best version of myself in this moment? And so
Mm.
for things in life that maybe typically will set you off, whether it's anxiety or anger, irritation, um, if you have a short fuse when it comes to patience, those are instances where you can then try to be more aware and practice and just in that second, ask yourself, wait, am I being a reactor or a creator? And then if I'm going to be a creator, how do I create the best version of myself? And then that's the response you are choosing to give. And so it
Oh,
becomes
yeah.
a very effective tool.
I can see that, and it's a great analogy and story or history behind that. And as you're working with clients, do you see what resistance shows up?
Definitely, like, but this is just who I am. And it's like, no, this is who you are choosing to be. So
Hmm.
if you, again, find yourself someone who is maybe short on patience in your relationships, you can see your behavior when you're driving on the road, right? If when someone cuts you off, because you can't control the other drivers on the road, when someone cuts you off, what's the immediate response there? And can you observe that behavior? No judgment. If you're
Hmm.
someone, telling somebody else they're number one, you slam on the horn, or you then, get up really close, those behaviors are very reactionary behaviors, right? Can you catch that behavior and without judging it, oh, I'm such a horrible person because I do that? No, let's not do that. Let's just say, oh, I noticed, yeah, when somebody cuts me off, this is my typical behavior. pattern, and then we can
Mhm.
change the pattern. And it takes a diligent awareness and then practice to create the change, but that change is possible. And we can use that in any situation in how you show up in life. And many times, yes, the resistance is of, oh, this is just who I am. No, not so much. Let's dig deeper on that. If things are showing up for you in like often with women that I work
Mhm.
with, they're in high level positions of leadership where they're leading a team. And maybe somebody is giving them the plate, and and you're being asked to step up to the plate, and maybe it's something you haven't done before, it's a new environment. Then their imposter syndrome tends to come up more
Mhm.
often than not. And oh my gosh, are people going to see through me that, oh, maybe I'm not fully ready for this. This is something that my superior asked me to do, and I'm just trying to do the best that I can.
Mhm.
Or going into again something new and unknown, or I love public speaking, but I know that's not something that people love to do, and they start the fear and resistance there. Well, look, again, that's all reactionary
Mhm.
responses. Let's take a step back and look at what is it that we want to create. Do we want to create an amazing experience or a wow experience? Or I want to create this opportunity for my audience, whether it's a team, a spouse, my children, or
Mhm.
an actual live audience, to walk away with a certain feeling or a certain takeaway. Then let's focus on that and then take a step back. How do we reverse engineer these things? And then to align with that, what does the self-talk need to be to make that
Mhm.
possible? Oh, I'm going to
Mm.
lean in and I'm going to trust myself because I really am competent and capable. And that is what I'm going to bring. And because this is what I want the audience to take away, this is how I'm going to deliver it. So I'm creating that opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah. What I really like about that is that, sorry, I'm having ear pod issues, and I think that they clicked in okay. When you get that notification that it's dying
Yes.
and you're like, not right now, it's not.
There
So there's my reaction.
you go.
And I think I created a solution
There
because the
you
case
go.
was nearby. So uh, this is real life, folks. So what I really, but going back to what you're talking about, which is way more important than my ear pod issues. What I
Saying is that, you know, quite often we identify what's not working and then we try to fix it without any intention's not the right word, but without any path. But what you're saying is before the fix happens, you're actually saying, here's the situation and recognize it. And in this particular scenario or instance, where do you want to be?
Right.
And so now all of a sudden you've already predetermined the end goal. So there's something tangible to work towards.
Yes.
Because in my head, changing patterns, I didn't really think that I was so schedule and pattern oriented until I realized I was. I thought I was all kind of a free spirit. I'm really not. I like to know when things are going to happen and I like to kind of be in control of those things. So there
Sure.
are we all are working through. But if I know that I can relate to this because um, I had recently had hip surgery
Mm,
and I'm fairly active. And so I know that I want to go do these things. And I'm also not a patient person. And so on my first hip, this is my second one. On my first hip, I just powered through all that junk. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go do it. And so now
right.
on the second one, I think I better defined where I wanted to be. And now I know that I need to do the small work
Right.
for a certain amount of time so that the end is better. And this is the first time that I've ever really identified that, but I can relate to what you're saying because of this physical thing that I'm working through and how important it is. Not just I want to go hike mountains. Oh no, I have to make sure these pieces are working correctly. So what you're saying in my big rant and ramble here is that by determining the end goal, and I would assume that that end goal might change a little bit as you're working the process, but you've already have an end in sight. So now it's easier to understand the whys around the changes, and maybe the changes will stick better. Is that accurate?
Well, definitely. Like the first hip surgery, you hadn't gone through hip surgery
Right.
before, right?
Yeah.
And your love for
You've
the outdoors.
experienced now. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And your love for the outdoors. Oh, I just want to be outdoors. I just want to be
Mhm.
moving. I just want to stay active. I don't want to lay up in bed and give myself the patience to rest and
Or do
heal.
these damn PT exercises. Love you, Lauren,
Right.
a lot, but
And I can relate to this too, because in my early 20s, I was in a massive car accident, and same
oh yeah.
thing where I had a broken hip and a broken leg. I was on crutches
Oh
for,
my.
oh gosh, like 3 months, I think. So yeah, that was a long heal. And I'm a go girl, so I can totally relate to that. And then when the second, you did the behaviors that you did with the first hip, and you also got the consequences that came with those
Mhm.
choices, right? And then
Mhm.
when it came to the second hip, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I've experienced this before. And okay, let's not go headfirst into instant gratification mode of I'm just going to
Mhm.
power through it. I am going to
Gotta do the
I
work.
learned from that. I'm going to be patient, slow down, and say it's okay to do these things and give it the time that it needs so that when I am healed, now I
Mhm.
can fully enjoy being outdoors again, and absolutely spot on. And then
Mhm.
just to go back to our car example, once you recognize the patterns, and if it's a pattern that, oh, I'm not so proud of that about myself, I do want to change that, then before you get into the car, think about, okay, so in the happenstance that someone does cut me off, well, how do I want to show up in that moment?
Mhm.
And then you kind of envision that in your mind, and you go, okay, well, this is how I want to show up. Well, instead of slamming on my horn, I just want to maybe grab the wheel, maybe I'll grab it with tightness of frustration. And that feelings, truthfully, will only last 90 seconds if you just acknowledge it. And it's okay to be frustrated. Like, okay, I'm going to acknowledge the frustration, but I'm just going to say, I don't know the full circumstance as to why that person is in such a hurry that they had to cut me off, but I'm going to let them go. There was no accident here. Nobody got hurt. I didn't like their behavior, but I'm not going to make my behavior equally bad, if you will.
Mhm.
So even in short instances, we can do that. And when when we recognize a pattern, and we can go, oh, this is my reactionary pattern, and yes, I do want to change that. Well, then can you take a moment somewhere in your day or your week to have a reflection period? So that's where you're taking yourself out from the middle of all of that and envision, well, if that situation happens again, how do I want to show up in that moment? And that can be a conversation in a relationship, that can be a work situation with an employee, a superior, or a coworker. It could be in an opportunity. Oh, I know this opportunity is coming. How do I want to show up as the best version of myself there? And so it's a tool you can apply anywhere, whether it's a quick moment or a midterm goal or a long-term goal. It's so
Mhm.
wonderful.
And so, we're talking about persons' patterns and their reactions, but I'm also curious about, as somebody's making these changes and implementing the changes, how does that affect the environment around them? So if you're talking with professional people or professional women and they're in a professional atmosphere, and the whatever it happens to be, whether it's imposter syndrome or whatever that situation is, and they're overcoming how they're self-talking to themselves, how does that
Mm.
affect others around them and change the environment?
It's amazing what the positive ripple effect can be. And so in an example where someone is presenting in front of their team, or whether it's a meeting, and they're trying to improve communications, and
Mhm.
maybe in previous times, the woman in that role, she shrinks back a little bit, she's not really stepping in fully into her power, then I'm working with her on the self-talk to get past the imposter syndrome or whatever the way that inner critic is showing up, and getting her to own her 3 Gs. And then she's able to confidently, not arrogantly and nothing aggressive, but actually assert herself.
Mm.
And so she's stepping into that leadership role, and she's, because of the self-talk, she's respecting herself. And it's amazing what happens when a woman respects herself. And then her posture is there, her communication and expression, and she is then facilitating that leadership role. Her team is going to kind of, they won't necessarily say it out loud, but they may be wondering who is showing up today.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to find that they're going to positively react to that. You may have an outlier here and there because nothing is absolute, but and nothing is a perfect environment. Humans are humans, and that's always the adventure of life. But you're going to find that the team will respond positively to you, whether you're going to have better communication or you're going to have better collaboration, and that positive energy will emanate, and you'll see that not only in the interpersonal relationship, but you'll see that in the productivity of the results too. It can be very, very powerful. And then it becomes what we call like the competence confidence loop, like, oh, I showed up that way, and knowing that that's your intention, observe, what is the reaction that's happening, and you'll notice that positivity, and it's like, oh, well, let's go do that again. It's like, okay, that came from owning my power. Go own your power again, positively assert yourself, and it continues, and it compounds positively. And in life, it can work just negatively too, right? If you go in with the self-doubt, well, it's going to show in your posture, whether, it may be hunched over shoulders, a little bend there, and maybe the words don't come out as smoothly, and
Or
that,
confidently.
yeah, it doesn't come out confidently, and so the team is going to react too, like, okay, she doesn't really know what she's talking about today. Okay, so does this really matter that we do this or we don't? Or the attitude is less than, right? And then that kind of downward spirals, and it's like, oh, see, I shouldn't have taken this leadership role, or see, what I believed about myself is true. And it's like, okay, let's get back to the foundation of what is that self-talk, and then stepping into that power. And yes, it does create a wonderful positive ripple impact.
And one word you used, and I never even thought about it, but I think identifying that again is important for the conversation. You said self-respect.
Yes.
And that's really interesting as we're talking about improving in all these areas and the negative self-talk. I honestly didn't think about how that changes our self-respect. An
It
interesting
does.
concept. Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
and then
learned
how
that in
visual it
observe.
is when that changes.
Yes, I learned that in my observation with my marriage. A handful of years back, I was in a lot of conflict with my husband, a lot of conflict, and in there was a conversation where my self-respect was challenged by
Mhm.
him, and I realized, wait, my self-respect is a little bit higher than the respect it seems like I'm receiving from him.
Mhm.
And because I wanted to create the change, I recognized I needed to do it in me first. Like,
Mm.
I don't need my self-respect to be high one day, low the next. I don't want this wavering. I want to be standing on solid ground with myself. And in
Mhm.
doing that work, which was a lot of conversations with my self-talk, and and really paying attention to that, when I focused on that, and then I found that foundation for myself, and I stood in that power as a wife, as a life partner, then he began to create changes unconsciously.
Mm.
And then from there we were able to heal the relationship, and then bloom it again, and because of that work. And then we had conversations where I could really talk to him about what was really happening behind the scenes. And he was kind of blown away by it all. And but the end result is we're madly in love with each other again.
Wow, what
And
a wonderful story. Because
and
it
it's
could have, without the right tools, it could have gone in the other direction.
oh gosh, definitely. Absolutely. And so, that's why I'm such a big believer of like, look, this, it starts the relationship with yourself. And then
Mhm.
this can be used as a tool for positive impact in relationships with the ones that you really care about. It can be relationships at work and then how you show up in the world. So it's a truly powerful tool.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what do you find? Who's your audience, or who are you helping typically?
Yes, it's a lot of mirror images of me, funny to say, right? So a lot of women like myself, we're high achievers, we're go-getters, we have attained success in the world on
Mhm.
many levels, and yet internally there was that struggle. And this is a daily work in progress. I won't say I've arrived or I've surpassed it all. It's like, no, there are instances that come like, oh, look at me being human. Okay, so the high achieving woman, whether she's in a leadership role or she's an entrepreneur herself, and she's attained success and things look fantastic on the outside, and yet internally she is going through the struggles of, oh, that inner critic keeps coming up and it sounds so loud, or I'm dealing with imposter syndrome or procrastination, or when it comes time to make a decision, there's a hesitation, or I'm into people pleasing or perfectionism,
Mhm.
all those things. And it's not allowing them to fully step into the power that is theirs, and shining in the best way possible. And they're ready to make that change. And that's where I invite them into my G3 Mastermind. It's an online community where we can work through those in a mastermind setting or a hot seat setting. And we create the breakthrough. And because these things, even for myself, come up again and again, it's an ongoing work. And so here
Mhm.
you have a community of women who are very supportive of one another. So we connect, we collaborate, and we certainly celebrate one another in that community
Mm.
too.
That's wonderful. So they're having the community of others that are going through that, but also they're walking away with the tools to help themselves when they're not in community.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's fantastic. And so, how do people find you, Lee?
Yes, thank you. The best way to find me is going to g3mastermind.com.
Okay. And you have an offering as well.
I do. So since my one of my passions is all about the self-talk, I have put together a positive self-talk guide. It's a PDF that I call Don't Say That, Say This. And so it has one side, it has the typical negative things that we say to ourselves. I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm trying. It's so hard. All those things. And then what are the positive reframes that you can say instead? So it's something simple that you can have in front of you, and then when you catch a thought, oh, there it is. Okay, here's the positive reframe so that you can have something there to guide you to repeat that again and again. And that can be found at rewriteyourselftalk.com. And you'll get that free PDF, and I'm happy to share that with you.
Wonderful. So we have g3mastermind.com and then rewritetheselftalk.com.
Rewriteyourselftalk.com.
Rewriteyourselftalk.com
You got
for
it.
the free gift. Wonderful.
Yes.
Lee, this has been a pleasure. And I thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for what you do because we all need a piece of you in our life.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to show up for you. And if I may, I just want to share a story around
Yes,
one of my
please.
my favorite clients, and we're just going to call her Jay. And Jay worked in a leadership position for a very large corporation. And when she first we worked together online, it was not an in-person session, but we worked
Mhm.
together online. And the first time that she showed up with me, she was like a little mouse. And I just thought, oh honey, I'm like, there's so much to you. And I thought, how do you not see this? There's so much to you that we got to explore in conversation. And working together, we examined the self-talk because I need to understand, where are you right now? Okay, now let's look at where do you want to be? And she would come to me, she said, Lee, she's like, I had a one-on-one situation with one of my team members, and normally I would say something quick, short, and maybe a bit stern and walk off and just continue to do my thing. She said, but this time, she said, because you would talk to me through my self-talk and my self-respect, I stood there confidently and assertively, and I listened. And then I created the best response in that communication. She said, and the results that I got from that team member was better relationship and better productivity and working together. She said, before that, I would hate those kinds of confrontations. And
Wow.
now I welcome the opportunity, because not only does it let me shine, but then I'm giving the space for that team member to shine as well. So that was just a
Wow.
wonderful
That's
improvement.
impactful. Thank you for sharing. That's really
Yeah.
impactful. And what a great analogy or picture, because I think that we can all relate to that in situations where, geez, I know I could have handled that better, but I don't know how that is.
Yeah.
Wow. Your work is important.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.